My name is Finn, and I am an alcoholic. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back. Lovely to see you. And to anybody new, welcome. If you'd like to see more of my content, please do hit that subscribe button and tick that little bell so you'll be notified of any time I upload anything new. So, as you can see, today's topic is a rather interesting one. Well, I talk very openly about the fact that I am an alcoholic in recovery, but I've never made a specific vlog on the topic until now. I have just celebrated 9 years clean and sober. I got clean and sober on the 17th of August 2010. I choose to label myself an alcoholic. I got sober with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous. There are loads of different ways to get sober. I just speak about Alcoholics Anonymous because that's what I know and that worked for me. And what I feel works for me, I always pass on to others. But do know that there are lots of recovery programs out there that are very successful. For me, however, I knew after years of trying to control my drinking that the only way forward really was going to be to stop drinking completely. Because I do agree with the way Alcoholics Anonymous sees it, that it's like some kind of allergy, some kind of physical makeup that means when you start drinking, you can't stop. I am an addict through and through. This is a pattern in all of my life. I had issues with drugs, with alcohol, with food. I still have issues with food. It's my one remaining issue. Those darn tubs of Ben & Jerry's. But in the grand scheme of things, Ben & Jerry's does me and my family and loved ones less harm than my drinking did. Now, growing up, the story I told myself of why I drank is very different to the story I now tell myself in light of shedding the denial. Growing up, I thought it was just part of being a teenager and exploring things, but I can see now that that first drink I had wasn't healthy. Most folks, when they start drinking, drink to experiment, just to see what it tastes like. I drank that first drink to get completely into oblivion, and that is not normal behaviour. Growing up, I had huge anxiety, huge mental health issues with depression and all of that. I lived every day with this constant gnawing anxiety all the time, and a head that just would not stop. All the negative thoughts all the time, anxiety, head talking, world was too much. And so for me, drinking was an escape. It was my chance to have an off switch. And the minute I took that first drink at 13, I was hooked. I'd never felt so calm in all my life. When I had that drink, everything inside me relaxed. The anxiety went. I was able to be confident with people. All my problems went away. And for the first time, there was this space inside me where I could breathe. And that feeling was one I then just chased over the years until I finally got sober in 2010 when I was 36. Now, of course, initially, this Friday night thing of a night off all of these awful worries and way I felt was great. But then, obviously, I left school, started to try and find a job, and I started to drink more and more to deal with this. And so, of course, eventually, drink stopped helping, if it ever did, and became a real issue for me. I was what they call a functioning alcoholic. I kept jobs, but I would be drunk at those jobs. I used a combination of weed and alcohol because I used to tell myself that if I didn't drink before midday, I wasn't an alcoholic. So I would smoke spliffs until midday and then have a drink. And my drink would be pop. Lager, as far as I was concerned, was just pop. You know, it didn't really count. And so when I was working, I would, first thing in the morning would be a spliff. It'd be a spliff to see me throughout the day. On my work break at lunchtime, I'd be off and having a drink. As soon as work's finished, drink to oblivion. And that was my pattern all the time. And eventually this, of course, became too much to handle. I was at university, I was at Oxford Brookes University. Nobody realised just how bad my drinking was, but for the first time I was in an environment where other people were drinking normally. I'd always socialised with people that drank and took drugs like I did, And at uni, Freshers Week was great. Everyone was doing what I was doing. Brilliant. Freshers Week finished, everyone stayed sober and got on with their work. Me, I carried on getting drunk. I couldn't manage the workload. I couldn't handle this spotlight that had been shone on just how bad my drinking really was. Everything got out of control and I had a massive breakdown. In 2008, where I experienced alcohol psychosis, I started hearing things, I started seeing things, my panic attacks were hourly, I started self-harming because the drinking was no longer numbing things, and I ended up in a psychiatric unit. And from there I ended up getting some therapy, and now this is why I know that I'm somebody that needs to not drink at all. I was part of a therapeutic program. I've spoken about this before when I talked about being diagnosed with personality disorder. It was an amazing program. I did 26 months in total, and they teach controlled drinking. So I was put on contracts to limit my amount of drink, my amount of units, my type of alcohol. Throughout the whole time there, it was a constant battle. But I did get my drink down to a more manageable level most of the time. However, I left that therapeutic community in the April of 2010. I had a leaving party, and I woke up from that leaving party in the August of 2010. So once nobody else was policing my drinking, I was off and running again. By some sheer bit of luck, I went to complain to my therapist that their therapy hadn't worked. Look what's going on, I'm drinking again. Always avoiding responsibility back then. And this therapist recommended Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, the way she did it, I'll be forever grateful for. She must have had experience of it, because she said to me, well, I asked her, I said, look, don't you have to not drink for AA? I don't need to not drink. I just need to learn how to drink sensibly, or if I didn't have all these problems, I wouldn't drink this way. You know, it's that needs fixing, not the drink. Such was my thinking back then. And she was lovely. She said, look, I don't really know. How about you go and try 3 meetings and then come back and see me, and then we can discuss what we need to do next. So I spent the next week trying to get to an AA meeting. I thought you needed to be sober to go to meetings. You don't. So I would go into town, I'd be nervous, so I think, I'll just have a pint before I go in. Then I'd have 4 or 5 pints and I wouldn't go. Eventually I managed to get myself to a meeting, and the minute I sat in that room and I started to hear people talking, I knew I was an alcoholic. I didn't go to 3 meetings, I went to 6 or 7. I went every single day, because bearing in mind I'd been in a therapeutic community, very much used to that kind of group dynamic. I heard more in those rooms and related more in those rooms in a week than I had done in my 26 months of therapy. I heard people talking about the same things as I'd done, things like not being an alcoholic if you don't drink till midday, or that lagers just pop and it doesn't count. People talking about going to parties and they'd take bottles to a party, but they'd keep some stashed in their own bag in case it ran out at a party. I used to do that all the time. Always wanting to buy the rounds at a party. I would collect everyone's money, go and buy a round, just so that I could down a couple of extra shots, because nobody would drink as quick as I would. I'd turn up to events and I'd look like a lightweight because I'd had 2 pints and fall over. Unbeknown to everyone else, I already had a crate and half a bottle of whiskey before I left. And all of these things, hearing these things, hearing other people talk about how they'd always felt like their insides were on the outside, that they were oversensitive to everything, that they couldn't cope with the world, they didn't know how to manage the world. This was exactly how I felt. And it was a combination of, yes, it's not just me, but I can't stop drinking. How am I going to cope if I don't drink? Thank God with AA you are not told to stop drinking. You are told to just not drink for 24 hours. In fact, you're not told anything in AA. You are suggested. There is a program. There are people. If you want it, they're there for you. Nobody ever does anything to you. It's amazing. It's an amazing program. So for the first couple of weeks in AA, I read all the books and I read between the lines going, well, that means I can't be an alcoholic then. I tried desperately to think myself out of it. But eventually I took on board the idea of these 24 hours. And I thought, you know what? I've tried everything else. I've apparently had the best therapy in Oxford and I'm still a mess. My life is going down the toilet again. I used to do these cycles all the time. Start to get a bit better, life will start to be okay. But then the anxiety, mental health would be too much, drink, back again. And this cycle was repeating, and I knew that this time it was the end. I'd hit rock bottom too many times and I was sick and tired of it. So this was my last chance saloon. I thought, right, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to drink for 24 hours and we'll see what happens. I climbed the walls. Thank God for being in Oxford, because I was going to 2-3 AA meetings a day at times because I didn't know what to do with myself, didn't know how to occupy my time, didn't know what to drink, I didn't know what to do. It was just nuts. I bought 20 odd books and colouring pens and oh my goodness, it was intense. But the people in those rooms just kept me safe. They were there on the phone, they were there in the meetings. I just kept doing this 24 hours, putting my head on the pillow, getting up, 24 hours, putting my head on my pillow. And then lo and behold, within a couple of weeks, something started to shift. And I for the first time, actually said out loud, my name is Finn and I'm an alcoholic. I tried not to say it up until that point. I'd said, my name's Finn, I've got alcohol dependency issues. My name's Finn, I've got issues with alcohol. Everything but. And the minute I said that and I accepted it, everything changed. I got myself a sponsor. She walked me through the steps of the program. And it was because of her that I ended up finding out that I'm trans. You know, I drunk on all these feelings for years and so never got to the bottom of everything. But then once sober, they say in AA, the good thing is you get your feelings back and the bad thing is you get your feelings back. And having drunk on my feelings since 13, I didn't even know what they were. All I knew was anxiety and sadness. Had no idea what the other stuff was in between. And so with my sponsor, we were learning to kind of pick apart emotions and what happiness was, what sadness was, jealousy was, all these different emotions to get used to and to work out how I felt for the first time and to be brave enough to look inside and find out things about myself. And that was how I came to know I was transgender, and thank God everybody in AA was really supportive. I came out just coming up to a year in the rooms, I think. I came out as Finn as well, and you know, everyone was incredibly supportive. Of course, not everybody goes to AA and discovers they're transgender. I have to be different. But everyone does go to AA and uncovers the truth about themselves, because drinking is just a symptom. The other stuff underneath is the problem. You know, I drank because I couldn't manage myself, my emotions, my life, and with AA, I've learnt to manage my life, and I do that one day at a time, and I apply that approach now to everything. I did it to get off drink, to get off drugs, to actually stop smoking, to approach my transition, to approach learning to manage my mental health problems. I've done it all one day at a time because of how I've learnt in AA. And lo and behold, those 24 hours have added up to 9 years, which still makes me rather shocked. There's a saying in AA that when you get sober, you find your life beyond your wildest dreams. In the beginning I was like, yeah, whatever. But it is so very true. I really worried in the beginning I was going to lose my identity. Who would I be if I wasn't this party person? My life was going to be boring. I was going to be sat at home, like knitting. And actually, completely opposite to that. Alcohol tells you all sorts of stories. When you're an alcoholic like I am, it tells you all sorts of things about yourself that aren't true. It tells you lies. It tells you that life's good with it, that you need it. You don't. My life is richer now than I could have ever imagined. You know, I started to go back to festivals. Did you know there are 3 meetings a day at Glastonbury Festival? Oh yes. Starting to live my life sober and doing the things I used to do drunk. Oh my goodness. It's just been amazing to remember every little detail of every day, to wake up with a memory of yesterday, to feel, and as tough as it can be sometimes, to feel difficult emotions and not have the ability to have a little drink like other people do, can be tough. But the other side of that is I feel joy to its fullest. None of my emotions are ever blunted by anything. I do still have mental health challenges, they may well be there forever, but I've learned now that I can work my life around them. Doesn't matter if they're there or not. It is what it is. Drinking is not going to make that any better. It took me a long time to learn this. And now, you know, bad feelings come, bad feelings go. Good feelings come, good feelings go. Drink is not going to help it either way. My life is just so full. The things that I do now, you know, making videos and writing blogs into a business. I've been accepted to do this TED Talk. I've gone from being this person in the gutter, skinny, self-harming, people running away from because I was such a pain in the neck, to now where I'm loved by loads of people, I've got a really wonderful life full of opportunities, and I'm going to be stood on a TEDx Open University stage giving a talk on mental health. It's just bonkers that I was ever this person now, and that this person could have ever worried that I wouldn't have an amazing life. I couldn't have even guessed where my life would have taken me in these 9 years, but it wouldn't have been this. Thank God it's not knitting, because I'm not a fan of knitting, to be fair. But life is just fantastic, and it's the best thing I ever did. To people who are struggling with alcohol, I do think there's a line. And I think for many people, when they have problems in their life, it can tip over the edge and they can drink too much, but they can pull it back. I think there are other people like me who drink too much and can never drink again because of the risk. People say to me, Finn, you're so much happier now, you're fully transitioned, you manage your mental health, your life is good, do you not think now you could safely drink? And the truth is, I don't know. But what I do know is I don't want to risk it. In the very beginning, somebody very wisely said to me, to stay sober, you need to build a life you don't want to lose. I have a life I do not want to lose. I love my life. It's not worth a glass of wine or a shot of whiskey just to see if I can manage it. It's not worth it at all for me. I know by experience that every time I tried to just drink in a controlled fashion, it fell apart. So for me, sobriety is the way forward and will continue to be one day at a time. So there you go. There is my story. I am Finn, and I am an alcoholic. I will always call myself an alcoholic in recovery. Sometimes labels are okay, and for me, reminding myself I'm an alcoholic in recovery keeps me from drinking. It's the only label that I remind myself of daily, because I think for me, that's the only way to keep myself sober. The minute I say I'm recovered, I might then think I can drink, so that's why I continually refer to myself as an alcoholic in recovery. So for anyone out there that relates to anything in this video, anyone that is struggling, please do drop me a message in the comments below, or you can private message me over on my website, which I'll put a link to. Don't be alone, drop me a message. I'll also put a link to my resources page, which has got links to all different sorts of alcohol recovery support programs. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, folks. See you again soon. Bye bye.